Hi, Keith Livingston here with Healthy Intelligent Training. This afternoon, I'm delighted to talk with my old coach, Barry Magee, who's one of the legends of coaching in New Zealand athletics and the world. Barry's still coaching at 86 and has a number of successful athletes all around the world. Okay, Barry, how did you get started with athletics?
I was about 13. My dad thought it was a good idea, perhaps if I joined an athletic club. At that time, I was doing nothing. I was connected with anything, no school sports, no nothing for Barry. I was too shy. I was a complete introvert, scared of everybody and everything. But anyway, he doubled me across on his bicycle across the Three Kings, which was about a mile away from home, and I did 3 years as a kid, like 12, 13, and 14 years of age and in all those 3 years, I cannot remember ever winning a race, and most times never, even though they were off handicap. I still didn't win a race in my 3 years, though I didn't have a lot of natural ability, and I lacked in confidence. But the president had a wonderful, beautiful little daughter, aged about the same as me, and I looked at her every Wednesday night, and I was too shy to speak to her, but I never missed a Wednesday night for 3 years of summers at the Three Kings Athletic Club, and I did the long jump, the high jump, and the 100 yards, and the 100 hurdles, and the 220, and never won a race in 3 years. But that's how it really started, and then it wasn't till I was 15, and at that time too, in those years, I joined the Roskill Rugby Football Club, and the coach put me out on the left wing, and I stayed there for 2.5 years, never scored a try. I was scared that I'd get tackled. I was scared to tackle the other team. I was scared I'd get hurt. I was scared of everyone. So I was the most insignificant little boy in the country, and school wasn't pleasant for me either. I was bullied in about standard 2. I was standard 2 or year 4, about year 4 or year 5 at school. The class bully was twice my size. He'd sit on you at playtime, and he'd do the typewriter on me with my hands pinned down until I cried. So I used to go home as a schoolboy, lie in my bed and cry. Lonely, insecure, and lacking everything in life. And I was the absolute nobody as a kid. And this is the amazing thing, that out of that should arise the Barry Magee, the athlete, and Barry Magee, the runner. 54 years of running that followed that. But it all started with the Three Kings Athletic Club, and then it went on to the Roskill Rugby Football Club as left wing for 2.5 years without scoring a try. and the only thing that's happened that was really, really fantastic in my life was at 14 years of age going to a Bible class camp. And somehow I said yes to God in my life. And within 3 months, my life had been transformed. I was the most brave and courageous guy, little kid in New Zealand, age 14. And I was confident, and I scored my first try even in a rep game representing Auckland, where for the previous 2.5 years I'd been number 15 in the team. Suddenly there was only 2 of us that was selected for an Auckland rep team, the hooker and Barry. And everyone nearly died of shock because they knew what Barry was like, but the new Barry was a whole different ballgame. And everything that I lacked in the next 3 months came to me after that Bible class camp. And my life has never been the same since. About miracles, about happenings, and confidence, and everything I needed. But then at 15, I injured a finger, had to have a splint for 6 weeks. A Bible class member said, "Barry, come and have a run with the Wesley Harrier Club, because they're running from our church today." And I was in a Bible class at Roskill Methodist Church at the time. So I went along, lovely afternoon tea provided by the Bible class girls. And we had a run-in on the first day, and I think I might have got second in the run-in of about 8 or 9 kids about my age, what was juniors then, under 19 or something like that, age 15, and I just loved it. Never played another game of rugby in my life. Gave up overnight, and that began really the running career of Barry Magee.
At what stage did you come across this guy called Arthur Lydiard, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, well, the club captain sort of took me under his wing in the first year when I was 15 of the Wesley areas, called Gil Edwards. He was the club captain, and he wrote me some schedules, which I think were about 30 minutes run on a Tuesday night and a 30-minute run on a Thursday night and Harriers on Saturday. And in those days, that was quite a lot. It sounds ridiculous now because, goodness, we have kids in year 9, doing incredible training today. And yet all of us generations, we never trained very much at all at a young age. But so Gil trained me from 15 and 16, and I think it was about 17 3/4. And but I did show some promise in those times. And this is why, we're about 17 3/4, Gil Edwards said to me one day, because we're going down to Hamilton to run in the Round the Bridges road races. And he said to me on the Saturday before the Round the Bridges races, Barry, I think you have some potential. I would like to invite and ask a man if he would coach you, who you could meet next Saturday, who'll be running in Hamilton. His name is Arthur Lydiard. And I believe he can do far more with you than I can. And so the next week, we went to Round the Bridges, and I think I won the junior race in Round the Bridges in 3 1/4 miles, where the senior race was at 6 1/4 miles. And but afterwards, that was the day I met Lydiard. In the dressing, I think it was in the dressing room. It was, and Gil Edwards said, Barry, come on, we'll talk to Arthur now. And so Arthur had just finished, I think, the senior race, and so we went over, and Gil introduced me to Arthur Lydiard that day. And so as we know, that was life-changing for Barry. Because just at that time, my father was dying in hospital also. He'd had a work accident. He was paralysed completely in the Auckland hospital and had only weeks to live. So it was an amazing couple of months for me, because I was a grocery boy. I worked in a grocer shop, and in a 3 months period, I changed my job. And I went from the Farmers Trading Company to Four Square. In that time, I met Arthur Lydiard, and that was transforming. And so that was a big happening. But with meeting Arthur Lydiard that day, Gil said to him, Arthur, Barry, I think, has got potential. Would you coach him? So Lydiard, who was 5'8", beaky nose, looked at me with those eagle eyes of his, and he didn't even call me Barry. He said, son, he said, are you prepared to run 100 miles a week? If not, tell me now, or don't waste my time. That's how blunt the introduction was to Lydiard. I can't remember what I said that day, but what I must have said, he said to me, he said, okay, 2 o'clock tomorrow at my house in my home, 5 Wainwright over, come and talk to me tomorrow afternoon. Okay, so but the introduction was, son, do not waste my time. If you're not serious, that was the distinctive thing. If you're not prepared to run 100 miles a week at 17 years of age, probably I'd never run more than 50 miles in my life. And here I was, and he was saying that, but I must have said yes, because the next afternoon I had an hour at Lydiard sitting at his kitchen table, and I went home with my first schedule, 100 miles a week, in the original build-up schedule, which we know today is called marathon conditioning. We know it as marathon conditioning. So, so that's really how it all began with Lydiard. And then I spent the next 12 and a half years. I didn't retire from international till I was 30. And so, I had that time from 17 3/4 with Lydiard. Lydiard was the master coach, the mastermind, the master everything. And I could speak for hours about Lydiard. So that was the beginning of it all with Lydiard.
About what were the most striking personal qualities that Arthur had that made him such a great coach?
Well, he just oozed confidence and belief in what he was doing was right. And this conveyed, he was like a machine gun talking. It was just bang, 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 boom, boom, boom. So he spoke with a man, he was a man of authority. He was small but dynamic, sort of thing. And his eyes just pierced you. But when he'd only say one line, but it would mean more than most people said in a whole conversation. You'd just look at the runner, One day I was round at his place and said about some forthcoming races, perhaps what I should run in. There's the Lindale 15-mile road race or the Howick 10-mile road race. It was the Auckland Road Champs, all the thing. Okay, the goal's the Auckland Road Championships, Barry. That's the goal. And he looked at me and said, "You can win it. You can win it." That was when I was about 19. And, well, the confidence he had. I went home knowing I could win the Auckland Road Champs. And I think he did the same with all of the rest of us too. He was able to convey incredible confidence that you had the ability and you had the training and you had that, you could go out there and you just went out there and you did it. And I said to him, "What about so-and-so?" And I named one of the runners in the race. No, you'll beat him. I said, "What about so-and-so?" He said, "He always gives in. You just put the pressure on. You put the pressure on and he'll give in." So he knew the opposition. And they're all the top runners that he was racing against too, because he was still racing in those days. And but he had this tremendous confidence that he could just put that on you. And there was no doubt in your mind that Lydiard said whatever he said, it was like God speaking. And so you believed it, and we just proved it time and time. But anyway, that was my introduction to Lydiard. That was the early years with Lydiard, and they were incredible. We would run Waitaroos with him, 22 milers. We'd run 15 milers on a Tuesday. We'd run 18 milers with him on a Thursday night. So all those early years we were running with Lydiard. And 90% of the time we were listening to Lydiard. And these things, and I can't believe what the runners do today. That's not the Lydiard way. He was one of his things to me one day, he said to Barry, for heaven's sake, don't get too hung up about what and why and how and everything works. He said, running is very simple. I don't know why people complicated it. Now, because he had no qualifications whatsoever. But he had, as we know, for years, he toured the world lecturing to people with PhDs and master's degrees in physical education, top coaches of the world, the top nutritionists of the world with PhDs. He would tell them what they should be taking, what the runners should need it. And it was all practical. Everything he knew, he had proven. And that they just left it up, and everyone listened to him as this man of authority. He knew everything. And so, but I never forgot, do not complicate the training there with it. I went to a running race yesterday, and I found one of the good women in the race there. I parked my car right beside where she was warming up. Well, she did 15 minutes of what I call sprint drills. And I couldn't stop myself. I went over and said, "What are you doing?" And she didn't know me from a bar of soap. I said, "I just wondered why you're doing that." I said, "Because I ran with the best in the world for many years. I never saw them do anything like that. And I've talked to people with master's degree in physical education." So they said, "No, that's an exercise drill. You don't do all that as a warm-up. A warm-up is a warm-up for a race." etc. So, but Lydiard it was very uncomplicated. It was very simple, and he kept it so simple to us. But after about 10 years, I remember Halberg and Puckett and Julian and myself, we were all at a lecture that Lydiard was giving, because we were all famous then, and he wanted us to just be there with him. And he'd give this big lecture, and we didn't understand half of it. It was so technical. He was using words like anaerobic. We'd been with him 10 years. We'd never heard of a word called aerobic or anaerobic. And afterwards, Halberg went up to him after his talk and said, what was all that stuff you're talking about? We never understood any of it, because he'd never used any technical terms with us for 10 years. And yet we'd conquered the world. It was so simple. We didn't do exercises before racing. We didn't even do exercise. I never saw Snell and Halberg do an exercise in 10 years, apart from in 1964, we did a few nights with Keith Scott in a garage. And for some reason, Arthur said, yeah, go and do it with Keith. So we did a couple of months of a few stretches and things. But overall, but it was so simple. But Lydiard, when he knew, he had to learn all the technical stuff, which he did himself, so he could lecture and tell other people. But Halberg went up to him after his talk and said to him, Arthur, what's all that stuff about? He said, aerobic and anaerobic. He said, does that mean fast and slow running? That was Halberg after 10 years of coaching the great Halberg. We'd never heard of the words even. Today, people got degrees and everything, but they've never produced runners like Lydiard. So Arthur, and so we had probably the best of running with him, listening to him and everything. I said to him one day, do you think I should go to the gym? He said, what for? I said, well, get stronger, and that with it. Huh, he said, go and run up a hill 10 times. That'll make you stronger. So that was keep it simple. We keep it the KISS principle. I don't call it keep it simple, stupid. I call it keep it simple, saint. I've changed the word there. I think it sounds simple sounds a bit derogatory to me, but it was so simple for us. See, all we did was get out and run and train, and there was nothing technical whatsoever. There was no such thing as a VO2 max. There was no such thing of taking your pulse rate or what was your blood pressure and all these other things. Incidentally, mine for 50 years was 110/70. My resting pulse rate was 48. I didn't know these things after about 10 years of running with Lydiard. But by then, when we were at the Olympics, suddenly all these things and that they did all this other stuff as well. At Rome, I was 48, my resting pulse rate. I was the highest of the 3 marathon runners. And so, the doctor that did it said, well, you're the fittest and you're the second fittest. And he looked at me and said, you're the third fittest. As we know, history, I beat the other 2 Kiwis and got an Olympic bronze medal. So what the heck? But we do know today that to have a low heart rate, for instance, I took Snell, when we were racing, we were going to race in Los Angeles, Peter and I, at the Coliseum Relays one year. And so we're flying across the Atlantic and the Pacific, going to Los Angeles. And I took Snell's pulse rate, and it was 34. So Snell had a great heart. I took mine, it was 48. Was my resting pulse rate. So but none of that stuff. We knew nothing about any of that, and it was all so simple. And today, I see some of the training that I see. I can't believe what they're doing. They run fast for 1,000 meters, and they jog 100, and then they run fast for 800 meters, and then they jog 100. And they're half dead by the end of the session. Now you go out and run for 2 hours and 3 hours. People forget that the simple training is what made Snell great. It took him years, of course, of the great Peter Snell to do and what he achieved in 1964 and have that great Olympic double. I mean, how people know, or even before his 3 world records, now after Rome, they know, 7.5 weeks before those 3 records, he ran the Owaraca Marathon 2:41. All these things. I never talked to a middle distance runner in New Zealand that ever trained like that whatsoever. And about 1962 or 63, Snell came out with me 2 weeks in a row and ran 50K, 30 miles for an 881 mile runner. It was unknown. So what Lydiard would tell us all was, you guys are the best conditioned and the best prepared runners in the world. Go and do it. It was so simple, it was unbelievable. But that simplicity